welcome to QI in my breeziest and most patronising bedside manner for a show that's all about illness, infection and injury. Joining me in casualty are the slightly indisposed Andy Hamilton. The disturbingly insidious Ben Goldacre. The seriously infectious Joe Brand. And the terminally ill-informed Alan Davis. And to tell you the truth, their buzzers don't sound so hot either. Andy goes... Ben goes... Joe goes... And Alan goes... And don't forget, of course, that you have your Nobody Knows Jokers.
Nobody knows.
Yes, in this series there may well be a question to which the real answer is nobody knows. And if you can guess which question that is, you get extra points for playing your Nobody Knows Jokers. Now, before we start, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you all to fill in this questionnaire that I've got for you. Oh. It's on the Epworth Sleepiness Scale. It's about, really, how likely you are to fall asleep under certain circumstances, and therefore whether or not you have a healthy sleep cycle. You're all concentrating very hard on it. Well, let you... I'm glad you take that. Joe has fallen asleep.
Filling in questionnaires.
Yes. That's the one that makes you fall asleep. Yeah. That
Finished.
Have you really? Yeah. Well done. We won't go through them till the end, though. I'm very impressed.
I've always filled in questionnaires quickly. I think it's a problem I've always had. I think if you finish first, you get marks somehow.
Oh, how do you know whose they are? Actually, you better put your name on them, hadn't you?
Oh, who hasn't put their name on their work?
I'm feeling more than usually like a schoolmaster.
Joe Brand.
It was... I feel that men fall asleep more somehow. Do you fall asleep in catnap during the day, afternoon, from
Only
television?
during sex.
Oh.
So when you're watching sex or doing sex?
Either.
It is one of the afflictions of getting old, I fear, falling asleep. So, while you're sleeping, we'll be playing QI. And the first question is, why would you swallow a pill made of a poisonous metalloid? Yes.
Would it be because you got really pissed one night and then you woke up the next morning and realised you were next to Michael Winner in bed?
Well, oddly enough, until you got to that last point, one of the uses of that poisonous metalloid was as a morning-after pill, but its other use was for the other end of the body. It's a metalloid called antimony, and it's a poison. But it was popular in the Middle Ages as a pill, because it's very good for constipation. The weird thing about it is you'd make a pill of antimony, because it's metalloid, it'd be like... It would pass through the body. You would then rummage through your leavings and wash it and use it again.
Rummage through your leavings.
Wasn't quite sure how to put it.
I'm certainly going to use that again, though. I like that one a lot.
And these things would get handed on from father to son through generations. And they'd use the same one. Because it was so rare.
Father's leavings and his father's leavings.
This pill was good enough for your great-grandfather.
So that's the earliest example of a repeat prescription.
Yes. Very good.
Hundreds of years.
Absolutely. But the other use of it was an antimony cup, where you would pour wine into it overnight, when you'd had a large evening, and then in the morning you'd take the wine that had been soaked in this antimony cup, as it were, and it would make you vomit instantly. So it was used as an emetic. So it was just really...
So what is it? It's a naturally occurring...
Yes, it's an element.
And it's an irritant, presumably? Because there's a mnemonic for remembering laxatives, which is there are bulkers, lubricants, irritants, softeners and explosives. And explosives work like... they work like cholera. You've got to sort of stick them up your bum. It's
Right.
technical.
Or suppository, as we comedians say. Yes. So that's for a really serious case of being stuffed up.
Yeah, proper phosphate enema, rocket fuel.
Wow.
on a skateboard.
In ancient Egypt, there was a doctor whose specialised function was to administer enemas to the pharaoh. He was known as the Neru Phuit, which literally translates as shepherd of the anus. It's an official job. Rather pleasing.
So with the crook, you mean?
It's obviously not a natural thing. Animals don't pump warm water up their arses, do they? It doesn't seem to happen in nature in any way that we know of. How did it come about?
Well, they are very popular with quacks. I think there's something quite attractive about how transgressive it is to squirt a lot of something up your bum that makes pretend doctors feel like real doctors. But there was a guy, well, John Harvey Kellogg, the man behind the man behind the cornflake.
Yes.
Yeah. So he had this this big kind of quack clinic that he ran, where the moment that you arrived, you had to make a visit to a man called the Rear Admiral, who would bend you over and fill you with fresh yoghurt, and then you would poo that out, and then you'd be ready to crack on with your detox.
And they would deal with your thrush at the same time.
What time's this show going out? Will people be...
Well, I mean, it is almost the most kind of basic fact about us all is that we poo. And also that we are, as we age, supposedly, we get more obsessed by it. I mean, it's sort of all you've got left, really, isn't it? And there are stories of nurses who get sent stools by grateful patients. You must have heard those stories, eh?
They're not necessarily grateful.
It's an expression of love.
No idea why, but that habit has followed me through into my comedy career.
There was a chap recently who tried to kill somebody by... he packed his anus with explosives, and it was a Middle East prince, I can't remember which one, but he showed up and went... And his plan was, shake the guy by the hand and then trigger it. But unfortunately, the body is very good at absorbing explosions. That's why, heroic acts where people jump onto hand grenades and stuff. So all that happened was he shook this prince by the hand, the bomb went off, and he just sort of bounced up in the air slightly and then dropped into his knees. And the prince, like any sort of royal, just went, very good.
Oh dear. Well, that's antimony. As I say, antimony pills were quite literally passed down through the family. Now, placebos. Placebos are often administered in the shape of sugar pills. My question is, how do they work? Very good.
Nobody knows.
Now, you might want to question this thing.
Well, they do work.
They do work.
But nobody quite knows why.
What's extraordinary is not only do they work even when you tell someone it's a placebo. I mean, you obviously have studied the placebo effect more than most.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And I think the magic ingredient of the sugar pills is its belief and expectation. So, for example, we know that 4 sugar pills a day are a more effective treatment than 2 sugar pills a day.
Yes.
And we know that a saltwater injection is a more effective treatment than taking a sugar pill, not because the saltwater injection or a sugar pill does anything kind of physically to your body, but just because an injection feels like a much more dramatic...
Is it something to do with that you just feel you're being taken care of? There is some part of your body yields to the authority of an injection even more than to a pill.
Yeah. And, everything. Pacemakers start working before they've been switched on.
Yes. Yes, I've heard this. Or knee surgery as well. They've cut people's knees open and then sewn them up. And they've said they feel better, even though they've not actually done anything.
And that's kind of why it's important to do proper trials, because otherwise you'd be running around thinking that it was worth cutting people open and messing around with their heart. And actually it wasn't. It was just...
The intervention, the almost priest-like nature of the doctor, the faith that is reposed in them, and obviously that goes some way, I suppose, to explaining homeopathy, because a homeopathic pill is as inert as a sugar pill.
I know someone who was told by a health visitor to take arnica for a caesarean scar. And went and spoke to an obstetrician and said, "No, is there any truth in that?" He said, "Well, the thing is with homeopathic medicine is there haven't really been proper clinical trials. But arnica is one that has been tested, and it has been found to have absolutely no effect whatsoever."
Homeopathy is a really good sort of teaching tool for for evidence-based medicine, because the homeopaths' trials in general are so crudely rigged that they make extremely good sort of teaching examples.
So they're not double-blind randomised trials in the approved manner?
Either each individual trial has been done poorly, or what you get more commonly is cherry-picking. So if you run 100 trials of something, then it's inevitable that maybe 5 of them will throw up positive results. Yes. And if you only cite the positive trials, then you can make it look as if your treatment works. And actually, I mean, the pharmaceutical industry are even bigger buggers for that, really, than the quacks, because it sort of matters more. And there are still no laws to stop people from hiding trial data, not meaningful laws.
This is the problem with, you see, people like me who are lazy, and I dare say you without being overdoing it.
Lazy?
But, no, I mean, when we read in a newspaper, studies show...
He's writing a novel under the desk.
No. I mean lazy in this sense. If I read studies show in some newspaper, you know, I kind of go, gosh, that study shows. But it takes someone like Ben who'll go, what's the study? Who conducted it? How many people were used? You know, they're never told that. That's basically the problem, isn't it?
But I mean, to be fair, I think this show is probably more guilty of that than anyone else. But it's a very easy thing to fix. Because I think every news story or feature or TV show or anything that makes a reference to a piece of primary research should give a link to that piece of research so that people can go and see what the evidence was.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, the placebo effect is undoubtedly incredibly powerful. On the other hand, there are drugs that are powerful too. If you inject someone with cyanide and say it's actually a sugar pill, they will die.
Yeah.
So, but as Andy rightly said, nobody really knows quite how the placebos work, but work they jolly well do. What kind of condition that astronauts suffer from is measured by the Garn scale. That's G-A-R-N.
Garn is what Steptoe used to say a lot.
Yes, indeed. Eliza Doolittle says Garn as well, doesn't she? Yeah. It's named after Senator Garn, who was a senator, who became an astronaut, and he suffered very particular from what most astronauts suffer from.
Depression?
No, seasickness, or at least travel sickness. It's really, really bad up there, apparently. There's a lot of vomiting. Which is not nice in weightlessness. So you take the pill.
Around the cabin.
Exactly. In fact...
They can't do that, but they've got a helmet on. You have to be...
Yeah. 47% of all the medication used by the shuttle astronauts were seasickness tablets. The sickest was Jake Garn in '85. And so after him, they used the Garn scale. A score of 1 Garn means you are completely incapacitated by sickness up there.
It's the right word, because it sounds like someone chucking up a bit, doesn't it?
It does. Do you know what causes seasickness, for example?
Is it going up and down on the sea?
Yes. That's the condition in which it happens.
And you mean physically?
Yeah, why does it make
But
one sick?
sometimes I've felt unwell on a ship just from the throbbing of the engines, not even the boat's not even moving about much.
Yes,
There's some sensation that's constant movement that starts to make things come up.
That sight of that would be...
It's a disconnect between the visual information and the sort of balance of information, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
I'm at half a Garn at the moment.
Oh, you're just looking at that. Well, it is...
Horizon.
Why don't birds get it when they're bobbing about on the surface? Why, they never seem to be
How do
throwing
you know
up.
they don't?
Well, yeah, that's true. Or, of course, maybe they just sort of evolved not to. But the bad things to do are going below deck for extended time periods, reading a book, looking at a compass, doing detailed work, or staring at one point. It's helpful to stay in the fresh air, drink plenty of water, avoid fatty and spicy foods. They say that for everything. Everything!
You can't move for advice now. You turn on 5 Live and someone's always telling you, well, they've got an expert in because it's sunny today. What do you think we should do? Well, you want to watch out because you can get sunburn, so maybe apply cream or wear a hat. You could be seriously saying this on the radio? What are you doing?
Or do avoid fatty and spicy foods.
Don't jump out of the window if you're on the 10th floor.
That must be from the film of The Perfect Storm, I
That
suppose,
looks like a film. I can't believe that that'd be an exceptionally good photograph from
Yes,
another boat.
That's such a good point.
I'm holding... Hey, how did you hold that so still?
Anyway, yeah, that's the Garn scale. Almost half of all astronauts suffer from space sickness, it seems. What is intelligent falling?